we are fireside for our 2012 Adventure Touring Bike Shootout. To my right, we've got the Moto Guzzi Stelvio NTX, Yamaha Super Tenere. To my left, we have the KTM Adventurer, the BMW GS, and the newcomer on the block, the Triumph Explorer. We spent the last few days actually traveling up to MotoGP in Laguna Seca. We're up here in the Sierra tonight. Again, fireside. We've done a lot of riding, a lot of curvy stuff.
Well, the GS is the icon of the group. The GS has been selling like crazy, and that's actually what has made these other bikes get invented, essentially, is because this bike is successful. So we already know this bike is really good. The wild cards are the Super Tenere, which we haven't put in a comparison test, and the Triumph Explorer, which is brand new. And the KTM 990 Adventure, that's the dirt bike. It's the only one with a chain drive. All the rest have shaft drives. And the Guzzi Stelvio, an interesting Italian take on this. Maybe not the best dirt bike, but it sure is a comfy tour to go cruising down PCH. So along with us on this shootout, we got two special guests. Cam and Co over there, who's been helping us out for many years. He hasn't done adventure touring, but he's a great sport rider. And then over here in the middle, Dean Height. We flew him out from Colorado because he's an adventure touring expert. He's ridden all kinds of bikes, and so we've got a wide disparity of opinions and backgrounds that can give you an idea of how we think about these bikes.
You know, when you talk about the BMW GS, you can't help but think to yourself how refined and how much time and effort has been put into this motorcycle. You realize the moment you ride this thing why it's the benchmark. It is so well, I'm just going to say it again, refined. The engine makes a stonk of power from 0 RPM to redline. It handles just fantastically. It's just a very confidence-inspiring motorcycle. You can't help but not love it.
It's a complete package, highly refined, and there's a reason why it's the benchmark. These other bikes have got a lot to live up to.
So how does our newcomer, the Triumph, compare to it?
Well, when you think about, or when I think about the Triumph, the first thing that I think about is the engine. So clearly, just the most powerful engine of the bunch. Plus, it's a triple. It sounds awesome. 1,200 cc's. But funny enough, you and I did some roll-on testing not too long ago on the Triumph and the GS, and amazingly, the GS hung with the Triumph for a very long time. We thought the Triumph would just pull away because it did with all the other bikes, and yet this air-cooled BMW hung right with it. But it's a completely different character between these two engines, and it's to me it seems a lot more street-oriented than off-road.
I am a huge Triumph fan. I have owned 4 of them personally, and I would say that the GS is by far and away better off-road. There's no question.
Wow.
So even as a Triumph fan, you're giving the nod to the BMW.
I'm giving the nod to the BMW.
Well, what are some highlights of the Triumph?
Well, the Triumph's highlights are the engine, revs, smooth as silk. All these other bikes are twins, parallel twins, V-twins, and that triple is just, it's silky smooth. It's like butter and a hot knife.
Camming, as the sport guy here, are you more in favor of the Triumph or the BMW?
Well, to be honest, you know, this is my first experience riding these motorcycles, and I found most of these motorcycles, you know, it will handle real well even on the road. And on the way up here on 58, Highway 1, all the bike performed real well. I mean, the Guzzi, we have a little bit of problem with the ground clearance and that sort of stuff, and I guess suspension a little bit on the soft side, you know, for our liking. And probably the least amount of power, you know, which is a challenge. I noticed a Yamaha that I found that very entertaining. I had a lot of fun with that. But I remember on Highway 33 on the BMW, I was really impressed how easy it handled, and I was able to, like, falling asleep, you haul ass. and it was so easy to ride.
I think the Guzzi really stands out as a kind of luxury touring, adventure touring bike. Dean took it down the coast and had a nice ride on it. Took it even off-roading quite a bit too. It is a very comfortable bike. You can sport tour on it as long as you're not in a big amount of hurry.
And even though a lot of our off-roading is still ahead of us tomorrow, I think we've come to some agreement that we have a somewhat favorite in the KTM as far as being the dirt bike of choice here today.
Absolutely.
Well, this brings up the technology component. And if you're talking about how far you could go in one day, and if it dealt with some freeway stuff, the Triumph does have cruise control, which none of these other bikes have.
Beautiful.
Standard, yeah. That's
And yeah, it comes standard, and that's fantastic. I've used it a bunch of times, and I have to admit, I do like it.
And over the road, another important factor is the Guzzi has an 8-gallon gas tank. You can go for miles and miles and never have to fill up.
To me, purely comfort-wise, I steer myself towards the Guzzi. I feel like I'm a lazy boy riding that thing around.
These guys all have adjustable suspension. And keeping with the technology theme here, the BMW does have the electronic suspension. And I think we've all come to agreement that that's pretty awesome as well. No stopping, push the button, go from sport, go to comfy, go to touring.
Let's kind of discuss more about this kind of newcomer within the class here. Highlights, lowlights, what do you guys think about it?
Low lights, its engine. It's busy everywhere. You've got to row the gearbox a lot more. Kevin, you were saying when we rode up here, you kept the BMW in second and pretty much had no problem. Whether it's a tight, switchback corner or, something a little quicker, where at the time I was riding the Yamaha and, I was rowing through the gearbox a heck of a lot more and having to spin that thing up a lot more just to, keep behind you. So the engine, I think, is its kind of weak point. Well, for tonight, I think we're going to put these guys to bed. We're going to have some beers around the campfire, and then we're going to get up tomorrow and we're going to take these guys off-road and see who really shines and who doesn't. Day 5 of our MotoGP adventure touring trip through Laguna Seca, Monterey, and into the beautiful Sierras. And you might not be able to tell from there, but each of us is just sweating bucket loads right now because we just got done riding a whole hell of a bunch of trails and fire roads up here in the mountains. Dean, what was our big surprise?
The big surprise is that the biggest, heaviest bike here, the Moto Guzzi, is better in the loose stuff than the Triumph here. Triumph with the big stomping motor and then nice cushy ride. Kind of thought that it might do a little bit better.
Our pre-expectation was that the Triumph was going to outclass the Guzzi, and it was just the opposite.
The Guzzi was going to be dead last in the last night's fireside conversation. So.
And largely attributed to top-heavy weight,
Very, very top heavy.
a floppy kind of front end,
Pushes it out. Yeah.
and a hella strong motor with a 2-light throttle that you cannot control very well. And the light flywheel that you were talking about, Kev.
Yeah, it's just hard to put the power down compared to the others. And then with the loose front end, especially in this really silty stuff we've been riding in, it's not confidence inspiring, that's for sure.
But what is confidence inspiring is the bike you're standing next to.
This thing rules. We put camming on this for a lot of these dirt miles, and as a dirt newbie, he did quite well on this. It's got the knobbier tires, it's got the 21-inch front wheel, and no surprise, it's the dirt bike of the group. And if you want to head on trails like this, that's your idea of adventure touring, this is the winner.
It's first time on an adventure bike ride, and I haven't been on a dirt bike for many, many years. And definitely it's not for a beginner. These bikes are heavy, they're tall.
So we're going to give you a lot of times what we don't give you in these videos is a clear-cut winner. KTM, this thing, no surprise, rocks off-road. It's just, there's a section back here that I got into that I would not have done on any of these other machines, and the KTM was able to manage to go down and come back up. But what we're not going to give you is, of course, the overall winner. We've done a lot of street riding, freeways, twisties, and just because the KTM's the best dirt bike doesn't make it the best road bike. So go to motorcycle.com, read the story, get the insight, figure out which one we picked as the best.